drown a motherfucker. He say he in the truth, oh yeah? Well, this the home. And I don't hate them brothers, I'm just too loyal to my own. Plus what they believe, hard for me to follow. No rank me, no head, and I ain't leaving this body to live and sleep in hollow. So when they ask I'm UPK, you tell them absolutely. And I ain't trimming my ways for nothing, gotta execute me. Cause I can never die with my tail tucked between my legs. Shit I be thinking, watching my daughters tucked in their bed. They so smart, and Alana, she so beautiful, but they ain't like other babies, and they daddy far from usual. Now I'm missing cause I'm about my father's business. It ain't about this shit I used to do in that 98 Navy, the tan leather seats. See, without wisdom, this world make you weak. I found out that the truth was bitter, the lies are sweet. Tried everything, I guess me and Johanna had to meet. Now I make the blind see, and I make the dead speak. And teach both my little girls the day that they lie with a man, they better bring me bloody bed sheets. Chaos match the time, this Glock match my handpiece. And I ain't trying to take him out, but I will defend this house or take a check. 144 in that black trench on some hitman shit. Shit call me 47. Praying for Armageddon. Me and my soldiers dressed for the wedding. Fuck the fame. Ask why, tell them I'm loyal to the king. Until the righteous reign. Loyal to the king. I walk that straight lane to break the chain. Loyal to the king. You devils can't have me, bitch. I'm loyal to the king. That's right. Bring that hot flame, you bitch ain't loyal to the king. Until the righteous reign. Loyal to the king. I walk that straight lane to break the chain. Loyal to the king. You devils can't have me, bitch. I'm loyal to the king. Bring that hot flame, you bitch ain't loyal to the king.
Till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. One west till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. They ain't scaring me. Rip the soul out of Pharisee. Speaking heresy and get you fucked up apparently. It's like they daring me. I said chill, they ain't hearing me. They ain't listening. Every bar nitroglycerin. Hit your heart, bring it back to start, make you live again. Get them dividends or we start getting ignorant. I be on that soldier shit. I told you shit phenomenal. Nah, but he abdominal. So what you suckers trying to do? Rhyming comical. Guess it's funny until I'm bombing you. Bring apocalypse to them pussy niggas that's popping shit. Team of all-stars, I coach them up like I'm Popovich. Fuck the politics and the lobbyists and apologists. They vagina, so we gon' check them like gynecologists. It's kinda obvious how the situation is ominous. The way I vomit this and regurgitate for the audience. They start applauding this cause the competition is fraudulent. From the era where niggas smoke you up like a parliament. The flow been stupid, shit has gotten retarded since. All the dominance of one west rising to prominent. Cause I be one west to the death till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. They want a nigga quiet, mute my maneuvers, but I ride like I got Groupon for Uber. Rhymes hard like they been viewed by Medusa. 9 milli Luger, 17 in the Ruger. Only need a few to sit up in your medulla. Obligata for the regatta, niggas wildin', they win every dollar. They riding by in black Impalas, let the semi holler. A showstopper, been the proper since the teeny bopper. But now I'm growing them off Patron, a premium of vodka. I put extensions on the Glock, modify the chopper. The swore heavy, war ready, and that's worth the mama. No marijuana, say I got the loudest silence on it. When I'm up on it, ain't no rapper do it like I do it. A lot of spitties and writers, but when they heat's on, none of them can get through the fire around with me. And I had them niggas spin like a tire, but down the deep, and I'm still dope as a piper. Every bar burn hard like a spoon with a lighter. Fuel to igniter, I'm winning, coming through with the title because UPK. I be one west to the death till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me. I be one west to the death till they bury me. I'm one west till they bury me.
Any man give his life for Yahweh Shai, Mashiach, and Christ, and fall up under that UPK banner. It's my brother and my blood, and I will die and kill for him if necessary.
Go to ground, 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 go to ground. It's all about that warfare, boy. Give ground, give ground, back up, give ground, give ground, back up, give ground, give ground. It's all about that warfare, boy. Take ground, 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 take ground. My soldiers take ground till I'm stand down. Take ground, take ground, take ground, take ground, take ground, take ground, take ground. My soldiers take ground till I'm stand down. Take ground, take ground, take ground. Now this ain't no movement, this a takedown. We will not be moved or intimidated. We ain't the type. You got a problem, tell them cross the fucking line. My niggas ain't polite. Soldiers to the left and right. I die for every man body. Before I be a coward, I'd rather be a dead body. This will be my kingdom when the hour pass. You can either get with it or get flipped like an hourglass. We live by honor and no excuse. Just sit the prayer up to the Lord. I told him, then let all the terrorists loose. Hold your tongue or get rebuked, cause you made a truce. With a race that made merchandise, how to buy bills. Scared of who? You got your gun, then pull it. Me and my niggas start to argue, it's about who gon' bite the bullet. It gon' take round, take round, take round. Opponents better move slow. Attack dog for this truth, nigga, cool yo. Go to ground, 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 go to ground. It's all about that warfare, boy. Give ground, give ground, back up, give ground, give ground, back up, give ground, give ground. It's all about that warfare, boy. Take ground, 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 take ground. My soldiers take ground till I'm stand down. Take ground, take ground, take ground, take ground, take ground, take ground, take ground. My soldiers take ground till I'm stand down. Oh, thought you could cross us with no consequence, but you will pay dearly. You should've used your common sense. My zeal lit, that means you could never prevail. Hey, where the truth sit, hey, where warriors dwell. Be wise with them weapons, cause I promise. My nine just like my wife, she concealed, she modest. I know two things, a robber will not prosper. And any man harm me and my aunt, I'm gon' meet the doctor. Cause this life is warfare, it's not an easy walk. Been watching my people die so you can miss me with that love talk. My UPK soldiers, any man try to cross your path, make him regret it. What that mean? Fall on his ass. Comparing me to you really ain't no contest. Long live one West. Say what? Long live one West. This for those who thinking we ain't ready for. Tell them back up. I'm about to drop something heavy for. Go to ground, 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 go to ground. It's all about that warfare, boy. Give ground, give ground, back up, give ground, give ground, back up, give ground, give ground. It's all about that warfare, boy. Take ground, 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 take ground. My soldiers take ground till I'm stand down. Take ground, take ground, take ground, take ground, take ground, take ground, take ground. My soldiers take ground till I'm stand down.
Yo, I thought the bomber clot to them boy, man. Bad mind I go kill them. Suffocate to no pussy hole. Yo, status. Tell some boys we don't chat us. Anyway, my dogs go in on the street, them bad. Gun talking up with jeans member. If any somebody ever treat them bad, send the pussy them but meet them God. Louis V kicks pan we feed them bad. Catch a new drip, dog the beat them bad. Look how we just come and we a beat them bad. You know sister we's them dad. Hey, but anyway though, this a no playground. The Glock 19, they have to stay round. Nah take no check with me payroll. Anything rise up, lay down. Them a send check but they won't. Dog we will make it step if they don't. But at the same old, said them want smoke but the grab a done flame out. A couple gyal a come through. Gyal a WhatsApp what she gonna come to. She a give me tap and she swallow some juice. Gyal a suck cock till me Jonathan blow. Bentley van a come through. Convertible drop top still have a sunroof. The dog them roll strap you one proof. Alright, wanna move. Anyway, my dogs go in on the street, them bad. Gun talking out with jeans member. If any somebody ever treat them bad, send the pussy them but meet them God. Louis V kicks pan we feed them bad. Catch a new drip, dog they beat them bad. Look how we just come and we a beat them bad. You know see say we's them that. Jeff say go fuck it up, so we fuck it up. Big up all of me friend them all who me never big up. All who know they are so, I ain't in a cup. Life shake up, you know me friend but that's how we go. Greenfield say we tough, so we a fi bust. And all who a flip up and a lip up a fill it up. Girl pussy way buff, one give we a fuck. One the pussy bust, one tar belly stuff with the fat cock. Nicky me give back shot really. Girl a bad hype up if you're not that pretty. Money say make you know him can't chat silly. Anything we beat we have a fat clock with it. Flick your bad with it, this a chop chop city. Anywhere we go we a lock that city. Money in a pocket city, fat Billy. Don't come around if you're not family. Anywhere me dogs go in on the street them bad. Gun talking out with jeans member. If any somebody ever treat them bad, send the pussy them but meet them God. Louis V kicks pan we feed them bad. Catch a new drip, dog they beat them bad. Look how we just come and we a beat them bad. You know see say we's them dad.
We talking about practice, not a game, not the game that I go out there and die for and play every game like it's my last. Not the game. We talking about practice, man. I mean, how silly is that? And we talking about practice.
Back row.
Best believe that I'm top 3. The only thing is I'm not 2 and I'm not 3. Put me anywhere of and they wonder it's not me. It's beef, we strut a nigga block, that's chopped cheese. No peace, the butterfly sting him, that's Ali. You reach, I teach him with the handle, that's Kyrie. Machines you.
Hey, Shalom Israel. This is the Wednesday night history class. Check out Commanding John Yohanna's radio show. We also have classes here Monday through Friday. Monday we have the law class. Tuesday the brotherhood. Wednesday the history. Thursday the scripture breakdown. Friday the last from Kadash. And we also have the radio show on the end. Any questions, type them into the chat. Today we're going to go into King James and the rumors surrounding his sexuality. Tons of people be saying that King James was a homosexual and he had many male lovers. And we're going to go and find out. First of all, if a man was a homosexual, why would you leave all the passages in the Bible where it tells you not to be a homosexual?
That's right.
Islam Christ. First of all, if you're a homosexual, why would you leave all the passages in the Bible where it tells you not to be a homosexual? First of all, that don't make no sense. So what we're going to do, hold on, bear with me. Also, any questions, comments, just put them in the chat. Because everywhere I go, I always say, King James, the homosexual. King James was this, King James was that. So we're going to go into it tonight. I'm going to find out if King James was a homosexual or not. So we're going to go into, as you know, I do the history. We're going to go into the history. Let me pull up my first slide. So these are the books we're going to be using. The first one is the Court and Character of King James. So obviously there's a book called The Court and Character of King James. That's where a lot of the homosexual rumors comes from, The Court and Character of King James. We're also going to go into a letter which Sir Anthony Weldon wrote about the Scottish people. And then we're going to go into, afterwards, we're going to go into, hold on, check my Latin for a second, the Basilican Durham. Listen, I've been learning that Latin. We're also going to go into the Basilican Durham, which means something the right of a king or the guide of a king. King James wrote this to his first son, but obviously his first son died in his infancy. Then he passed it on to his second son, Charles, who became Charles I of England. So let me pull my first slide. So okay, get me this one, Banyaram.
Canada on cancer.
What we're looking at right here is Sir Anthony Weldon, who wrote a letter about the Scottish people. He went on a visit to Scotland with King James in 1617. King James became King of England in, I want to say 1603. In 1603, this is when they went. King James visited Scotland once he got the throne of England, and this is around the time when King James went back to visit his homeland, Scotland. Go ahead.
Canada and cancer. First, for the country, I must confess, it is good for.
Hold on 1 second. I can't hear. Lucky, go ahead.
First, for the country, I must confess, it is good for the that prefers it, and too bad for others. Yes, sir. Could you help me with the with that word? Is good for the word just before that, Salakia.
Salakia, I went to. Let me go back to sorry. Which word?
I'm guessing it must confess it is good for, and then that word.
Hold on, wait a minute. I'm trying to see. Yeah. It says, "I confess it is good for those."
Salakia, sir. Canada and can.
This is old English. This is older than this right here is the 1600 English. So what you're reading in the Bible that you're reading, the Bibles that we read, this English is before that. So if you had the 1611 version, this is what you would have, where they hardly have S's and so forth. They only have S's in a certain place. So now you'll see the word. It looks like an F. So you read it like Fuck, but it's meant to be Suck. So this is the old English. So this is how King James and them would have wrote at the time. So also what you got to remember is how they would have wrote at the time is different to how, like, words they would use back then would be different to words you would use now. Like back then you would see two men and you'd say, oh yeah, them two men over there having intercourse. Intercourse back then meant communicating, it meant talking. Intercourse in the 1600s meant talking. Now the words for intercourse, now you better not use that in the presence of another man. Listen, you better not use that in the presence of another man. You be out of school before you could go to council, so lucky. You'll be online with Rambo, your Allah, so lucky. You'll be in the woods with Rambo, your Allah. It's lucky. Go ahead, Benjamin.
I'm gonna try with this one, sir. So I must confess it is good for those that suffers it, or is it prefers it?
Hold on, let me see. Hold on, I'm trying to
possess it.
Where's you reading from?
Those that.
Oh yeah, possess. Yeah, go ahead.
God. Those that possess it, and too bad for others.
And he goes. So he goes, first for the country, I must confess it is good for those that possess it, and too bad for others. So he's saying, yes, Scotland's good for Scottish people, but it's bad for others. Why? Because he was saying that he was disrespecting Scottish people, basically saying that Scottish people is a lonely people. That's what he's basically saying. So he's saying, yo, it's good for them, but it's not good for anybody else. Go ahead.
And too bad for others to be at the charge to conquer it.
Go ahead.
The air might be wholesome, but for the thinking, stinking people, it's like
that says the stinking people.
Stinking.
So he wrote this letter and he called the Scottish people stinking people. So now while he's wrote this letter and he's dissing the Scottish people, he's forgetting that King James is originally a Scotsman. So he's wrote this. You have to remember Anthony Weldon was from England. So what you have to remember is at this time, English and Scottish people didn't like each other. And King James was the first Scottish king to sit on the English throne. So people in England were skeptical of him. They didn't like him because why? They wanted their own to sit on the throne. That's what Queen Elizabeth wanted. That's why she wanted Mary Queen of Scots to do what? Marry an English nobleman. So England could stay English. But then obviously Mary Queen of Scots had married a Scottish man. Lord Darnley had a son called James. And that's who this is right now. So understand this. When he comes to England, he's going to have a Scottish accent. So straight away, You see, like how everyone was in an uproar when Rishi Sunak became prime minister. It's the same way how the English people didn't like the fact that a Scottish man became king of England. Go ahead.
The air might be wholesome, but for the stinking people that inhabit it. The ground might be fruitful, had they wit to manure it.
So now he's saying the Scottish people are lazy, they didn't even manure it, so it's not fruitful. So he's saying that it's not fruitful because they didn't manure it. That's lucky, go ahead.
Quran Khan. Their followers are their fellows, their wives, their slaves.
So now this man said, yo, Scottish women are slaves. So he's wrote a whole letter, and it's called something, the island of Scotland. So he's wrote a letter. King James didn't read this letter till later on. And King James read this letter and he was infuriated because why? King James has family in Scotland. King James' uncles is Scottish. His nieces is Scottish. His nephews is Scottish. And this man came to Scotland on an expedition with King James and he's wrote a whole letter. This in Scotland. Go ahead.
Quran Khan. Their horses, their masters.
And he goes, man, he basically said they worship horses. The horses rule over them. The horses are their masters. Go ahead.
And their swords, their judges.
And their swords, their judges. Meaning all these men do is kill one another. These men don't have councils, they just kill one another. So he goes, their swords and their judges. Go ahead.
By reason whereof they have but few laborers.
And he's saying they're lazy. He goes, by reason there are few laborers. What's a laborer? A laborer is someone that works. He goes, they have few laborers, saying Scottish people are lazy and they don't do nothing. Go ahead.
Quran Khan. And those not very rich.
And those not very, very rich. Hold on, let's get to the next one. So, okay, go ahead.
The country, although it be mountains.
So now.
Mountainous.
So now what you have is Scotland is full of what? Mountains. How do I know? Because I've been to Scotland. You're walking up mountains, man. The boots, right. Take it walking up the mountains. You're walking up hills everywhere, man. When you go to Scotland, you can look up these hills and it's mountainous. It's not like England. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, even the show, the Highlanders, it's called that because the mountains like it.
That's it. So yeah, even here, Anthony Weldon went there and he goes, yo, it's mountainous. Go ahead.
Quran Khan affords no monsters but women.
And he goes, there's no monsters but women. He's calling the Scottish women monsters. Like he looked at them Scottish women and was like, nah, them women is horrible, man. You have to understand this. King James' mother was a Scottish woman. It'd be like someone saying to you, niggas are ugly. You're gonna be like, yo, so what you saying about me? So that's how he's writing the letter. But this letter fell in the hand of King James a few years later. Go ahead.
Quran Khan, of which the greatest fought as counter. It's like it.
You see what it is? While it is this English takes a while to get used to. So yeah, you gotta read it like a few times, and then before you know it, you'll be able to pick up more words and more words and more words. So okay, go ahead.
Quran Khan, of which the greatest fought as countries, countesses and ladies are kept like lions.
So now he said in Scotland they treat their women like animals. They kept like lions. You see, like he's leaving a report. Like, see, if you went to Saudi Arabia, your report would be similar to this. If you went to Saudi Arabia, your report would be similar to this. And yo, man, their ladies are kept in cages like lions. So he was like, yeah, their ladies are kept in cages like lions, and so forth. Go ahead.
In iron gates, the merchants' wives are also prisoners.
And then he goes, so now he said the merchant's wife are also prisoners. So what happens is when a man goes to a country and he writes these kind of letters, you might just think it's a letter. But when a man usually goes to your country and he criticizes it, it's because he's planning to come back and conquer your countrymen. Because he's planning to come back and make out like your country is nothing and people won't feel sorry for you. Imagine if someone came into Scotland and killed all the men, and then someone's like, well, you know, did they treat their women like slaves? They did have them in cages like animals. That way, people won't have mercy on the people that they've killed. The oppressor does it to us all the time. Black people, while they was selling drugs, while they was doing this, and then you have is no one has mercy because of the story that was told. That's lucky. Go ahead.
Right. Can't thought it. But not in so strong a hold. They have wooden cages, like our boar Franks.
A boar is like a pig. He's saying, look, man, we got wooden pages, like some wild boars is there. Go ahead.
Khan, through which sometimes peeping to catch the air, we are almost choked with the sight of them.
And listen, man, they're choked with the sight of them, meaning to catch the air. They're choked with the sight of these women. So now he's dissing these Scottish women in this letter that he wrote. Salaki Banyamin, get me this one.
Okay, sir. These ladies are of opinion that Susanna could not be
Chased.
shaft. Oh, Salakia could not be chased because she bathed too often.
So often. Well, this English is hard to read. So now, he said that they didn't like Susanna because Susanna bathed too often. Now he's trying to say these Scottish women are dirty and they don't bath. So that's what he's saying. Go ahead.
Pride is a thing bred in their bones.
And he goes, pride is a thing bred in their bones. So this man in his letter, all he's doing is dissing Scotland. Go ahead.
And their Salakia, what's that word, sir?
Flesh.
And their flesh naturally abhors cleanliness.
So he goes there. Listen, he goes, they hate cleanliness, man. So imagine you being a king and you're Scottish, and this is how this man that works for you is talking about your countrymen. King James weren't happy about it. Go ahead.
Their breath commonly stinks of pottage.
And he goes, their breath stinks of pottage. Go ahead.
Their linen of piss.
He goes, their clothes stink of piss. Listen, Anthony Wilden's going in with this letter. Imagine he's going in with this letter unprovoked. So imagine King James is reading this and this man's talking about your homeland like this. Remember, you're the king over that land, you know, and you're trying to merge these two countries. And what Anthony Wilden is doing right here is basically saying, y'all don't merge nothing with them, man. He's saying their clothes stink of piss. The Scottish people are tramps. The Scottish people are disgusting. Go ahead.
Their hands of pig's turds.
He goes, their hands smell like pig's turds. He's making these Scottish women sound ugly, man. Like, why would anyone even want to be around them? He said they smell like pig's turds. Go ahead.
Their body of sweat.
Their body of sweat, man. He goes, the smell of BO as well, man. Listen, he's going in his letter. Go ahead.
And their splay feet. What's that one?
Splay feet.
And their splay feet never often. So okay.
Never offend in socks.
Never offend in socks. To be chained in marriage with one of them were to be tied to a dead carcass.
So he goes to be chained, to be married to a Scottish woman is to be chained to a dead carcass. You have to remember King James' mother was a Scottish woman. King James' sisters were Scottish women. So him reading that is like, yo, how's this man coming up with all this? Hold on. Yeah, go ahead.
Were to be tied to a dead carcass and cast into a stinking ditch.
So he goes, being married to one of them is to be married to tied to a dead carcass and cast into a stinking ditch. Go ahead. For mostly,
and a dainty face are things they dream not of.
And a dainty is like what, a cute face, pretty face, or whatever. He goes, it's not things they dream of. He's trying to say these women are filthy and disgusting. Go ahead, let me get this one.
So like every whore in
I believe it's Houndsditch.
Houndsditch is a Helena, and the greasy not boards, buds,
Call them greasy boards. Greasy boards.
boards in Turnbull Street
Street.
are Greekish dames in comparison
Of these.
of these. And therefore to conclude, the men of old did no more wonder that the Messiah should be born in so poor a town as Bethlehem in Judea.
So you're saying Christ was born in a poor town in Bethlehem, Judea. Go ahead.
Then, Quran Khan, then I do wonder that so brave a prince as King James should be born in so stinking a town as Edinburgh in
He goes, yo, Christ was born in Bethlehem. But damn, it's crazy that King James was born in such a stinking town called Edinburgh, man. Imagine that. Say that again.
So like, yes, sir. So I'm sorry to cut you. Why did he? Why is he disrespecting him though? Did I miss something?
Oh, the reason is nice. So not here. He's not disrespecting King James. He's disrespecting Scotland, and he's saying it's a shame that the king was born in this stinking town called Edinburgh. So the reason he's this in Scotland is because England and Scotland have gone through many wars, and he was an Englishman. So being an Englishman, a Scottish man ain't really on your level, because England had more power. So that's why Guy Fawkes was calling King James names as well. Go back to Scotland and all of those things, because being from England, you feel like you're better than people from Scotland. So that's what they was doing. Go ahead.
Like this earlier, it's like British people hating Rishi Sunak.
Yeah.
It seems like, why is this foreigner leading my country?
That's exactly what it is. So now this in Edinburgh, and this letter fell into the hands of King James. So now, go ahead.
It's like you said. So doesn't he know that King James was from Scotland then, and his mother is Scotland and all of that?
Now he does, but in his mind, he's thinking, he's just talking about Scotland, and King James ain't going to say nothing about it.
Oh, okay.
So he's thinking, yo, King James, England's his new home. So this man, in the beginning, he liked King James to some degree, but what they always remember is King James was originally from Scotland. So it's like a man that knows nothing about England trying to come and govern England. You're not going to be happy. You know, this nigga telling me about England. You was in Edinburgh like a week ago, man. Don't tell me nothing about England.
Right.
What they thinking. So now we're gonna. So now, as lucky, get me these. So these is some of the places in Scotland. Go ahead. So this is an island. The top one is the island. It's called the island of Arran. So if you go to Scotland, there's a place called Arran. Go ahead.
The inhabitants of this isle are well proportioned, generally brown.
Generally what?
Generally brown.
This is letting you know that the people of Scotland was brown, man. Go ahead.
And some of a black complexion.
Some of a black complexion, letting you know that the original Scottishman was black.
That's right.
So now, the people that this man met in the letter when he went back with King James and so forth, this lets you know those black people in Scotland, those black with some with a brown complexion. Give me the next one.
So like I said, what book is that, sir?
This is called the Western Islands of Scotland.
Western Islands of Scotland. Okay.
Come on,
Go on, sir.
No, sir. Go ahead, Benjamin.
The inhabitants are all Protestants.
So this right here is another island in Scotland called Giga. So now there's different islands in Scotland, and with these islands, to find out which ones were black, you look up the clans. So you go look up which clan they came from, and then you can find out that a ton of them was black. Go ahead.
The inhabitants are all Protestants and speak the Irish tongue.
And speak what?
And speak the Irish tongue.
Black men ruled the island too. So black men went from Ireland to Scotland also. And that's why they spoke the Irish tongue. Go ahead.
And speak the Irish tongue generally. There are being but few that speak English. They are, so like, what's that word? Is it grave and reserved in their conversation. They are accustomed not to bury on Friday.
They don't bury on Fridays. Why? Because the Israelites, man.
That's right.
They know a little bit about that, yeah? So that's why they ain't burying on Friday. Go ahead.
They are fair or brown in complexion.
Fair or brown in complexion. this Scottish island was full of brown income. There was a man that went to look at these islands and he wrote down what he seen and he was coming back with. They were speaking all of these languages. Go ahead, give me the bottom one.
The natives here are very well proportioned.
Island in Scotland called the island of Jura. Listen, I can find you a million excerpts where it lets you know black people was all over Scotland. Go ahead.
The natives here are very well proportioned.
Very well proportioned. Go ahead.
Being generally black of complexion.
Black of complexion. Go ahead.
And free from bodily imperfections.
Go ahead.
They speak the Irish language.
Go ahead.
And wear the plaid, bonnet.
And they wear the plaid and the bonnet. So plaid comes from black people, man.
That's right.
That whole Irish dress code. Now it used to be a garment. They've just turned it into a kilt. So now you see the Irish, the Scottish man with the kilt on and the beret on. Really, that came from black people. It's letting you know here the black people, they wear the plaid and the bonnet, man.
So okay, so is there a picture of the plaid? I could look. Can we look? If it's possible.
No, so
please.
Let me get some.
Okay.
Yeah, this is it. Let me get this one. Hold on, bear with me. So this right here is this. Oh, it's not coming up. This right here is plaid material. Can you see this material on the screen?
Yeah, I've seen them with it.
Yeah, so that's the material that obviously we brought to Scotland.
All right, okay.
So we would have that in a full garment with the beret on, and then obviously over time they just stole it.
Okay,
So they just stole it.
And that's the not the dress thing. Is it the dress thing that they would wear?
They would call it a kilt, but we had it as a garment. So there was half the garment and turned it into like a skirt.
Oh, seen.
So when we had it, it would be a full garment.
Oh, like a trousers and top and that.
It's more the material.
Right.
So that each clan would have different material, different plaid. So that's how you would know he's from this clan. His plaid would be red. This one's plaid would be grey. This one's plaid would be yellow. Nowadays, people wear what everyone looks good, but back then, back then, that's the ones that they was wearing.
Right. So Thuada, appreciate it.
A brother said, you put this question up, sorry. Fair or brown complexion? Does that mean black and white people living together?
But you would have had remnants of Edomites there. But now, when you would have had brown complexion and dark complexion, most of them would have been dark skinned. So fair back then didn't mean white. How fair means white today. You would have had people have a lighter complexion. So that's why in one of them it says brown complexion or dark complexion. Then this one here says fair or brown, meaning the brown ones was darker than the fair ones.
Right.
If you get what I mean.
Basically different complexion.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So you're the lighter, darker ones. Well, them Scots was black people. Let me get my next slide.
You want this? Okay.
I believe I missed this. Hold on. Bear with me. I missed the slide, you know. Oh, damn. Hold on. All right, then there was a slide that I missed, but I didn't pull it on here. But there's a slide which lets you know that. Hold on. Because I got the book right here. I'm gonna pull it. I'm gonna read it from the book. But while it is, I forgot to pull it on my PowerPoint. I was rushing around. So lucky, bear with me.
I joined the stream.
While it is, this one's short. We'll take it back this. It's one page. Bear with me.
I didn't stream it. I recorded the stream. Too much.
It's up to you if you want. Hold on, bear with me. Yeah. Actually, you probably could just read it, you know. That one there.
I can do both.
You sure you can read the Old English? The Old English. Listen. I'm gonna do a history class on the Old English one of the days. We're gonna go over the whole alphabet about what D, die, and thou means, because I know sometimes that be confusing. What D, thou, and die means. I'm gonna break down all of that. Listen, I'm gonna go get me a woman speaking Old English. Don't get me. A woman speaking Old English. Yeah. Adolphus Laster did King James unalive for this. Our King James didn't unalive him. What King James did do is fired him from Parliament. I'm just going to add my next slide in. We're just trying to work. Hold on one second. Yeah.
That's the book.
So this is the book right here. It's called A Perfect Description of the People and Country of Scotland. To be fair, it's I don't know if you need it or if you don't need it. Depends how much you like history. So now this is one of the page. This is the page that I missed. This is in the preface. So this is the man that republished it. Go ahead.
It may appear somewhat singular than an editor to professor. He bears no enmity for the Scots. Should be the first to republish what contains too much brevity and of faith. This seeming paradox will vanish when he reflects for the moment on the state of Scotland.
So lucky, I think you missed the part. Go up to when the severity part.
God. It says contains too much severity of
satire.
Satire.
So now satire means not true. So now this man that republished it said, yo, this letter contains a lot of satire. So if this letter right here that this man wrote contains a lot of satire, that means everything else he said about King James could also contain satire.
That's right.
So that's what you need. That's what you mainly need from this book. A lot of this letter was satire. The republishers know. So that means a lot of everything else he said later on about King James could be satire. Yeah, that's it now. That's all they need on that.
So like you said, if I may, sir. Did you say what the meaning was for satire? Or
satire means like false and not true and
okay, right.
All of those kind of things.
Can't. Satire.
Person, did King James consider himself English or Scottish? Like our King James always understood he was from Scotland because he had the whole Scottish accent, the whole lot. So he understood he was from Scotland. But once he moved to England, he considered himself English and Scottish because he merged them together. So he considered himself the king of the United Kingdom. So he considered himself United Kingdom because he united three kingdoms. He united Wales, England, Scotland. He united all them kingdoms. Also, it will tell you that he was the king of France, but that goes all the way back to Edward III. He wasn't officially the king of France. It was just what they used to say because they never used to like France. For instance, it was a wind-up. Also, he wrote this letter serious. He wrote this letter being serious, but he didn't know it was going to fall into the hands of King James. So he wrote this pamphlet, and it ended up into that James. Let me go back. So lucky someone get me this one. So now the man that wrote that book, his name was Sir Anthony Weldon, and right here it's going to let you know his relations with King James. Go ahead.
Relations with King James. The story of Weldon's dismissal from King James's court.
Now understand this. The same man that wrote that letter, King James dismissed him from the court for writing that letter. What does it mean to dismiss someone? You fire someone. If you've ever been fired from a job, what review would you leave that job? It's not going to be a good one.
That's right.
Listen, every job I've been fired from, I've left a review saying the racist. These times I got fired from my own stupidity. I just say the racist. Listen. Anthony Weldon did the same thing. King James fired him from his position. Imagine a man, and you're an Englishman, so you think you're better than the King James anyway. And this man, Scottish man, fires you from your position. What are you going to do? Make up rumors, and that's what he did. Right. I've been hearing King James is gay for too long, and I ain't seen no proof of it. That's lucky. Go ahead.
Right. For his negative assessment of the Scots in a description of Scotland is usually taken as the justification for the criticism of James in the court and character of King James.
This is telling you King James got criticized by Anthony Weldon. Why? Because he dismissed this man from the court. So it's letting you know King James fired him, and that's why King James was criticized by Anthony Weldon.
Right.
And it's a book called the court and the character of King James. So in the court and the character of King James, he tells a ton of lies about King James. Go ahead.
So, like you said, was Anthony, was it Wilder or Weldon?
Weldon.
Weldon, was he an Edomite or?
Anthony Wilder was a brother.
Brother, oh, okay, calm.
All of them back then came from like noble families.
Right, calm. The one.
I believe you can trace his lineage back up to, was he of Norman descent, or I can't remember, but you can trace his lineage back up.
Which contains the famous comment that James was the wisest fool in Christian.
King James was the wisest fool in Christendom. So Christendom is what countries which is governed by Christian law. He's saying King James was the wisest fool out of all the Christian countries. Go ahead.
Khan. However, it is unclear whether Weldon was the author of either of these works.
So now they're saying it's unclear if he was the author, but he definitely was. Go ahead.
Khan. A description of Scotland was first published 6 years before Weldon's dismissal from the court.
It was published 6 years before Weldon's dismissal. I believe he was dismissed in 16. No, he went to Scotland in 1617. So he published his letter after that, then it was dismissed later on. Go ahead.
Khan, and was not credited to him until the second half of the 17th century. Likewise, the court and character of King James I was not credited to Weldon until after his death in 1648.
So now it was credited to him after his death, meaning this man's a coward. He wrote a book and didn't even stand on the book he wrote, man. This book came out after his death. So now this is a part of the book. This is called The Character of King James. Is that too small or?
It's too up, sir.
It's too up.
Most on Christ. I'm gonna pay for them. I'm gonna pay for them glasses prescription after as also. Lucky. After. Just take me to counsel. We'll sort you out. So lucky. Go ahead.
This king's character is much easier to take than his picture, for he could never be brought to sit for the taking of that, which is the reason of so few good pieces of him. So, lucky, sir, you got that?
Yeah, go ahead.
But his character was obvious to every eye.
So now this is Anthony Weldon. He wrote a book, The Court, King James in his court. So now he's mad at King James and the men that stood with King James. So what did he do? He wrote letters and said all of them was homosexuals. Because King James sleeping with the Duke of Buckingham. King James is having all these affairs with these men. And the reason he targeted those men as well is because those men stood with King James.
So
the rumors made it into the mainstream. Slucky, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say. So that's how brothers even today are saying King James is a homosexual.
Yes.
And why? Yeah, that's where. So I wondered where that came from. I always wondered where it came from.
Yeah, that's exactly where it came from. Came from a man getting fired from his job and writing a book and not even putting the book out while he was alive. Put it out after he died.
And that was in 16 something years, so many years ago. And even today now, brothers are still saying it. So
yes. What happened with the book is nobody took it serious at the time. Then after once King James published the Bible and Catholics didn't want to read a Protestant Bible, the letter resurfaced, the book resurfaced, and then people started to run with the book to dissuade people from reading the King James Version.
Right.
To dissuade you from reading the King James Version. Don't read that book, man. A homosexual wrote it, and the Catholics was running with it so much that if you go on Wikipedia now, we'll tell you that King James had loads of gay relationships. Because of all them lies which spread that way. So lucky. Go ahead, Benjamin.
So lucky. So is it trying to say that King James didn't like taking pictures?
Nah, because back then there was no cameras at that time. So he's talking about the picture of King James, meaning what it looks like and so forth.
So lucky, sir. He was saying that he could never be brought to sit for the taking of that. Is that like portrait or painting?
Hold on, read it one more time. This king's character is much easier to take than his picture. Nah, so basically, when they're talking about his picture, they're talking about how he presented himself.
Can't say. It says, for he could never be brought to sit for the taking of that, which is the reason. Which is the reason of so few good pieces of him.
You're right. But we do have good pictures of him. we have a picture of King James being black.
Right.
With those pictures, I can't remember who painted the best one. I think we got it on the wall. Yeah, that one right there is the best one. So they painted a picture of him, one which was painted on fabric. That's the best one. So if you're going to use any picture of King James, go for the fabric one because that's the one. They wanted to whitewash, but it would have damaged the fabric. So obviously they just left that one, and that's the one we use today. So the Lord always finds us to know if someone's a nigger or not. And
right.
Yeah, that it's a good job that they even left any of them pictures, or we would have thought King James was completely white. As Lucky, go ahead.
He was of a middle stature, more corpulent through his clothes than in his body, yet fat enough, his clothes ever being made large and easy.
So now this man said King James was fat and his clothes was large, because if you know anything about back then, it was back then being a glutton was not a good thing. So he's trying to say what you'll find is every diss from back then, Sir Anthony Wilden attributed it to King James, claimed he was a glutton, claimed his tongue was too big for his mouth. So Lucky, go ahead.
The doublets quilted, is that duvets? Doublets.
The writing's so small I can't see what. Yeah, doublets quilted. Yeah,
quilted for stiletto proof. His breeches in plates and full stuffed. He was naturally of a timorous disposition, which was the reason of his quilted doublets.
Go ahead.
His eye large, ever rolling after any stranger.
And now this right to this King James saying that King James would roll his eyes at strangers and wouldn't want to eat with the public. But that's a lie, because when you look at the Basilicum Duran, which is written with King James's own hand, he told his son, eat with the public, because if you don't, they're going to think you're eating in secret because you're a glutton. Let them see everything in plain sight. So that's how you know he's lying. King James used to eat with the public. King James wrote that in a letter to his son. Don't hide away, eat with the public. Now, they know back then, if you hid away, it was because you was a glutton. So what you'll find is Anthony Wilden is not saying he's a glutton direct, but is trying to hint towards that. Trying to hint towards it and saying, yeah, because King James used to roll his eyes when people would come around him and so forth. When that's a lie, because you can read in the Basilicum Duran that he didn't do that. Go ahead.
Ever rolling after any stranger came in his presence, in so much who that for shame have left tongue too large for his mouth.
And I think King James' tongue was too large for his mouth. Go ahead.
Which ever made him drink very uncomely, as if eating his drink.
And he goes, King James used to drink like he was eating his drink. And that's a lie, because King James, in the Basilicum Duran, he told his sons how to eat. He told his sons how to eat. That's like, go ahead.
It's mad because today we watch the news and we see, Prince Charles, whatever, but back then you had to listen to this slander to know how the king looks like.
Yeah. That's it. And because this man worked in the court with him, everyone would believe the slander, because he would have had closer access to King James than anybody else. So he was saying, yeah, his tongue was too large for his mouth and so forth. Go ahead.
As if eating his drink, which came out into the cup of each side his mouth.
So they'll say, well, drink his drink, and the juice is coming all out both sides of his mouth. Now, back then, if you know anything about back then, you had to eat properly. It's not like now. It's not like now where we've been in slavery and table manners. Listen, somebody was telling me about table manners the other day, that you're not meant to put your elbows on the table. Listen, I didn't know this. Apparently, you're meant to have 2 forks and two knives. You're meant to have the outer knife. What are you meant to eat with first? The outer knife or the inner knife? See, that's what I'm saying, because we come from slavery, we don't know that. But apparently, there's table manners that we all lacking. Well, I'm lacking it, so lucky.
I'll give a one for.
What I'm saying, to say you're not meant to eat with your elbows on the table. You see what it is? And this is why, listen, you better marry a black woman, man. So when you go to her house, elbows is on the table and it's normal. You marry outside the race and you put your elbows on the table. The other race is going to look all the way down on you, man. This is why you marry your own, where everybody's got their elbows on the table. That's lucky. Go ahead, Benjamin.
One concept. His skin was as soft as taffeta sarsnet.
Lucky.
Which felt so because he never washed his hands.
See, and now he's trying to say King James didn't wash his hands. When King James taught his son in the Basilicum Duran, make sure you clean, make sure this is done, make sure that's done. if we got time, I'm going to go into the Basilicum Duran. So, Lucky, go ahead.
Only rubbed his fingers.
Yes, Lucky, go ahead.
Thank you. Would you say the Scots and English are still at odds with each other, even in modern day today? Not as much now.
Not as much, but when you do go to Scotland and you ask them about English monarchs, they will tell you they don't like them. Because we went to Scotland last year and I asked them, also, what do you think about Henry VIII? They was like, yo, we hate him. Because obviously Henry VIII invaded Scotland and was going to kidnap Mary and make her marry his son. So back then, they hate Henry VIII because he was invading Scotland. So what united Scotland and England was a black man by King James. So here's the reason why there's no wars between England and Scotland. What you'll find is once King James took over, now before England and France used to be at war, King James took over and he got on with most of them countries. And that's why the fighting kind of stopped. Like what you'll find is during King James' reign, things was kind of calmed down a bit. Like during Elizabeth's reign, you had the Spanish Armada and all of those things going on. Once King James took over, everything was kind of calm. So what people tell you was a great king, but then depending who you ask, they'll tell you he was a horrible king, he was a tyrant, he was this, he was that. When you read about King James, he spent most of his time studying the word of God and whatnot. Like with King James even translated his own version of Psalms in the book of Revelations, but that's nothing to do with the King James version. He translated it separately for himself. So in King James, in his own room, he would have his own translation that he translated of Revelation and Psalms, because he was into theology and used to sit down with all the church clergymen. So he had a ton of knowledge. Lucky, go ahead. There you go, like my Proverbs. It's not in the Bible, but it's for me. Yeah. So yeah. So yeah, that's King James had his own version as well. So Lucky, go ahead.
Only rubbed his fingers ends slightly with the wet end of a napkin.
See, so he's trying to say King James was filthy and only rubbed his hands with a napkin, the end of them. Go ahead.
His legs were very weak, he was not able to stand at 7 years of age. That weakness made him ever leaning on other men's shoulders.
Go ahead.
His walk was ever circular, his fingers ever in that walk finding about. Salakia, sir.
Also, let me get this one. I can't get it, but it's not.
Parade in his drinking. However, his old age.
So now he's trying to say King James was an alcoholic, which is a lie. King James taught his son in the Basilicum Duran, don't be over excessive in alcohol, don't be a glutton. And he taught his son how to be a good king. So it's a good job he left that book, because that book that he left to his son clears up about his character. Go ahead.
However, in his old age and Buckingham's jovial suppers, when he had any turn to do with him.
Actually, no, let me skip this. I can see for time's sake, let me see if I need this one. Give me the bottom part when it says it was so crafty. Go ahead.
He was so crafty and cunning in petty things, as this circumventing any great man. The change of a favorite in so much as a very wise man was wont to say, he believed him the wisest fool in Christendom.
So he called King James the wisest fool in Christendom. He said King James was the wisest fool, meaning imagine that you're a fool, but you're the wisest out of all the fools. So he goes, the wisest fool in Christendom. Go ahead.
Meaning him wise in small things, but a fool in weighty affairs.
So he slandered King James in this book called The Character of the Character of King James. Now get me this one. So now when you go on the internet, this is what it will tell you. Go ahead.
Though we don't know the truth about his sexual preferences, we do know that James had 3 intense and exclusive romantic affairs with men.
So this is what the internet will tell you, that King James had romantic affairs with men. So if you go on the internet, it will tell you this, that he had romantic affairs with men. Go ahead.
It's possible that they had a sexual side, just as it's possible that had he lived today, he wouldn't have defined himself as heterosexual.
They're saying if King James lived today, he wouldn't define himself as heterosexual, because they're saying he had romantic relationships with men. So, Lucky, go ahead.
Such a man was sure to have enemies.
Now, this is clearing it up. This is letting you know that King James had enemies. It goes, such a man was sure to have enemies. Go ahead.
One such man, Anthony Weldon, had to be excluded from the court.
Go ahead.
Weldon swore vengeance.
Weldon swore what?
Vengeance.
Weldon swore vengeance, and in his vengeance came up the rumor of King James being a homosexual. Because that's what happened when he swore vengeance. Soon after, that rumor came up. Go ahead.
It was not until 1650, 25 years after the death of James, that Weldon saw his chance.
So Weldon waited until after King James was dead. King James died in 1625. He published this book in 1650, 25 years after King James is dead. That's like someone telling you right now Tupac's a homosexual. Don't even mean anything that has been dead for 25 years. Why did Weldon publish this when King James was alive? Go ahead.
He wrote a paper calling James a homosexual. Obviously, James being dead was in no condition to defend himself.
So this is why you won't ever hear King James defend himself, because King James was dead when the rumor came out. King James was dead for 25 years when this homosexual rumor came out. Now here is the dates. It's letting you know, look, King James died the 27th of March, 1625. And it says the court and character of King James was first published in 1650. So this is 25 years after King James was dead, he came up with that rumor. Now, if it was true, why wasn't no one spewing this rumor when King James was alive? Why wasn't no one saying this when King James was alive, walking around, when King James could refute the claims? They waited until after he was dead to come up with this rumor. Because here it's letting you know King James died in 1625. This rumor came about in 1650. So they waited 25 years after this man was dead to bring out this rumor. Guess what? They also waited until after Charles I was dead to publish this. They waited until after Charles I was dead to publish this nonsense. That's lucky. Let me get this one.
Karawan Khan. The charge then is advanced by advisories of the King James Version.
So it says adversary. So
sorry.
The charge is put there by King James's enemies. Go ahead.
Karawan Khan. The charge then is advanced by adversaries of King James Version that King James I of England was a Bowdy fellow and even homosexual. However, these charges as well collapse upon further investigation.
Once you investigate these claims of King James being homosexual, once you do further investigation, these claims collapse. Go ahead.
Karawan Khan. James Stuart of Scotland became King James VI of Scotland and eventually went on to become King James I of England. James Stuart was his father, right, sir? No?
His father is Lord Darnley, so Henry Stuart.
Okay. So, like, so who, if I may, so who's James Stuart then?
James Stuart, that's King James.
Oh, right. Okay.
So what is his surname Stuart? But everyone just says King James I because he's the first king of England.
Oh, right. He's a Stuart. Okay. Understand.
So they'll call it that era. They'll call it the Stuart dynasty.
Right. Okay.
Or the Stuart era. Then before the Tudor era, the Victorian era. So the Stuart era would be King James, Charles I, Charles II, and then basically it stops right there. Because obviously after that, the Jacobites got kicked out of England and Ireland and so forth. Then the Hanovers took over. What else? Lucky, go ahead. James
Stuart of Scotland became King James VI of Scotland and eventually went on to become King James I of England. In 1604, shortly after becoming King of all England, King James, as titular head of Church of England, authorized the new version.
He became head of the Church of England. Why? Because Henry VIII passed the law once he broke off from the Catholic Church to set up his Protestant religion, which means protesting against the church. Really, he got the idea from Martin Luther. a man in Germany that was against the Catholic Church. Once he decided to do that, he decided the monarch is going to be the head of the church. So the head of the Church of England today is what? King Charles III. So if you're a Protestant, King Charles is your head. So lucky, go ahead, because he's the head of the church. Because every English monarch becomes the head of the church once they become king or queen of England. Go ahead.
Kadoan Khan, you know, so as a titular, what does that mean? As a titular?
Meaning as a title.
Oh, right. Because of his name, King James, as the titular.
No, the title, meaning head of the church, is his title because it's head of the church.
Oh, right. Okay, Khan. So, like, after becoming king of all England, King James, as titular head of the Church of England, authorized a new version, Xuality, of the Bible. This, of course, has come to be known ever since as the King James Version. Thus, those unsympathetic to King James Version have been quick to point out alleged character flaws associated with James Stewart. At the outset, it should be noted that we are dealing with King James Version and not the St. James Version.
So now he's saying, yo, we're dealing with the King James Version of the Bible and not the St. James, because he's saying everyone's got their flaws and their shortcomings. But King James' flaws and shortcomings wasn't homosexuality. That's what they'll tell you, that when his shortcomings, but it's lucky. Go ahead.
Kadoan Khan. So St. James Version and King James Version, there's a difference, sir?
Look, but basically, when he says St. James Version, I think he's referring to his character.
Oh, all right. Okay, Khan, thought it, sir. James Stewart was a man, and certainly had.
Basically, this is letting you know that it was a man that had his flaws. But give it the second paragraph.
King James I of England reigned at a time when vicious winds of political strife were rampant. England was in the throes of casting out the last vestige and influences of the Roman Catholic Church. There also were bitter internal politics of long-standing adversarial parties. King James therefore had bitter enemies, both religious as well as political.
Go ahead.
Some of these dedicated themselves to tarnishing the reputation of James Stewart in any fashion possible.
Letting you know his enemies set out to tarnish his name in any fashion possible. Go ahead.
Kadoan Khan. Several of his bitter enemies were quick to point out his personal quirks and fox pass of social graces. However, the most serious allegation brought forth after he was dead
the most serious allegation brought forth after he was dead. That's why he couldn't defend himself, because the most serious allegation came after he was dead. Go ahead.
Kadoan Khan. That he was a homosexual.
Go ahead.
This allegation was picked up and published in the Moody Monthly in its July-August 1985 edition.
Wow, this rumor started to come back around in the 1980s. In the beginning, no one even paid attention to this rumor because they knew it weren't true. So then, this pamphlet, they picked it up in the 1980s, and that's why everyone's starting to say, yo, King James was gay, King James was gay, because this rumor came back around in 1985. Go ahead.
And so, like it's a brother started this?
In the beginning, yes.
Weldon, wasn't it?
Yes.
Oh, okay. God. These charges have never been proved.
Wait, these charges of what?
Never been proved.
See, these charges of King James being a homosexual have never been proved. So I could go ahead.
They've never interviewed them or anything.
Do what?
The lovers he's been with. They've never said like, yeah, me and King James.
That's what I'm saying. They was
never proved.
They was dead by the time people
started. Everyone, even the lovers too.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So this information came out 25 years after King James was dead. So most of them courtiers would have been dead also. So no one got to speak to them men, and a man openly say, yeah, I was in a relationship with King James. You're not going to find it. So people lie and say, yeah, he was in a relationship with this man, knowing both the men you're claiming can't defend themselves because they're dead. So all them rumors is just rumors. So now this made its way back around town in 1985. Lucky, go ahead.
Khan, as will be noted below, they originated from an embittered political enemy of James, political enemy of James, who vowed vengeance against him.
They're letting you know this rumor came from a political enemy of James who vowed vengeance against him. Go ahead.
Anton Weldon, right?
Yes.
Khan. His charges are analogous to the tactics of the modern political operatives in attacking their foes. Other more recent publications also have insinuated that King James was less than a godly person.
So now they were saying King James was less than a godly person. Slacky Benjamin, get me this one.
Another one counts, sir. Let us present a brief overview of the man James Stewart. Understanding something about him personally will in itself go a long way to negate such politically motivated allegations.
Go ahead.
James Stewart grew up in Scotland of royal descent.
So he grew up in Scotland of royal descent. Go ahead.
Through the political intrigue of that era, he became an orphan, brought up by tutors.
He became an orphan because his father got killed when they tried to blow him up. Perhaps they strangled him outside. Then his mother ended up getting locked up in England, Tower London, and getting beheaded on the orders of her cousin Queen Elizabeth. So King James grew up with no parents as an orphan. So he was raised by tutors. He was raised by religious men. Go ahead.
As a lad, he was personally tutored by Peter Young, who had studied at Geneva under Theodore Beza, John Calvin's successor.
Go ahead.
Therefore, from an early age, Young trained the youthful James in Calvinistic theology.
And this is why King James was so passionate about God and the Bible, because he was trained in theology from young. So he was raised basically in religion from young. So that's why he wanted a translation, and he translated his own Psalms. And when you read a lot of King James books, he'll be quoting the Bible, quoting the law, quoting scriptures. He quotes all of them. Why? Because he was raised in theology. He wasn't a godless king. He knew about God. Go ahead.
The young prince thus developed a love of theology and the things.
I knew him said he developed a love of theology. Go ahead.
And the things of God.
And the things of God. So why would he be a homosexual if he done theology and knew about God? Go ahead.
Not surprisingly, he also developed a deep aversion to the Roman Catholic Church.
Go ahead.
He was described as having a keen intelligence and a very powerful memory.
Go ahead.
For he knows a great part of the Bible by heart.
And he knew parts of the Bible by heart because of learning it from young. Go ahead.
He cites not only chapters, but even the verses in a perfectly marvelous way.
Go ahead.
He is recorded as attending sermons almost daily on Sunday, both morning and afternoon, and on Wednesday and Friday in the morning.
So now they're letting you know that he was a religious man. People that were saying he wasn't a godly man, but go ahead.
After becoming King James VI of Scotland, James married Princess Anne of Denmark on November 23rd, 1589.
Go ahead.
Though their marriage would later become distant, his courtship and early marriage were those of romance.
And he was romantic with his wife, man, because obviously he loved his wife, Anne of Denmark, so much that he traveled to Denmark to get her and nearly got shipwrecked on the way back, man. Go ahead.
He was deeply in love with this young bride.
He was in love with his bride, so I don't know where they're getting these homosexual rumors. Go ahead.
Strange affections are these for a homosexual.
And if he was a homosexual, why was he in love with his wife so much? Go ahead.
That's right.
Lest there be any doubt of his infatuation with his wife, he wrote poems and sonnets describing her.
He wrote poems and sonnets describing his wife, man. Beautiful, and tell her how beautiful she was. He wrote poems and sonnets, man. Does anyone know what a sonnet is? I believe a sonnet is like a 14-verse poem. Is a 14-line poem?
Shakespeare wrote something.
Yeah, it might be. Someone look up a sonnet. I think it's a 14-line poem.
Karawan Khan.
About to write my river sonnet. A sonnet. Someone look up a sonnet. I believe it's a 14-line poem. Let me see how. Let me see how good I am at English and how good.
Yeah, you're right. You know, you're right. You know.
Give me a
You're
hand.
right. You know. Yeah, man, you're right.
I need one of you. I need one of you rogue historians to come and battle me, man. I'm waiting. Man. Listen, I'm waiting for these historians to.
They're not ready for you. They're not ready for you, man. They're not ready, Officer Dumbledore. They're not ready for you, man.
I need them to, something that I teach. I need them to tell me some lies. That's what I need them to do. I need them to come and tell me some lies so we can have a sit-down debate. I'll school them. Listen, we've been holding some things back in the vote. There's some things that stay in the vote that ain't on air yet. So I'm just waiting for someone to come up so we can, bring out all the information. But listen, I'm gonna go right at 14 verse sonnet.
That'll be very one-sided, man. So like you said, that'll be very one-sided, man. That'll be a quick smack up, quick.
See, listen, when everyone goes home, tell you, hey, I've been thinking about writing you a sonnet. She's gonna ask you what's a sonnet. Get me? They don't know about them words. They're a sonnet. I don't know about a sonnet. Slucky, go ahead.
Is it so like you said? Is it an old English word?
It just means a 14-verse poem.
Oh, okay.
So you see like how you have a ballad. This will just be a sonnet.
Right.
So yeah, you wanna sweep a woman off her feet. Hey, I'm gonna write you a sonnet.
Definitely, sir.
I'm giving you some free game, So like, go ahead. Let me stop. So like, go ahead.
That's it on that slide, sir.
Okay. And get me this one.
On other occasions, James wrote his correspondence, gracing it with godly comments. Listed below are the examples of such. I never, with God's grace, shall do anything in private, which
now, if King James is saying with God's grace, he will never do anything in private, because King James said, I want to do everything in the open, so people see who I actually am, because I know I'm right. Now, if King James was being a homosexual, why would he say he doesn't do anything in private?
True.
Go ahead.
Karawan Khan. I never with God's grace shall do anything in private which may not without shame proclaim upon the tops of houses.
And he's saying, I'll do everything in the open and I can proclaim what I do on the mountains because I ain't doing nothing wrong. That's what King James said when he was alive. He didn't shy away and hide and say, shit, I'm a homosexual, let me hide this. He didn't say that. People saying that he was a homosexual is lying on King James, man.
Was it, so like you said, was it frowned upon at those times, being a homo?
How yeah, you get put to death for that. Back then there was a thing called the Boggery Act. So a boggery was two men sleeping together. So nowadays people will look at it and say, you bogger, as a joke. Basically, it's English for a bogger is old English for a homosexual.
I didn't even know that, I had Edomite saying that to me, bogger or this, that, and the bogger, this, and the bogger,
It's old English.
Bogger.
Henry VIII passed the law in about, I believe, 1533, if my memory serves me correctly, about the Boggery Act. Now, if King James was a homosexual, why didn't he do away with the Boggery Act, man? The Boggery Act only got done away with in about 1967. Before 1967, it was illegal to be a homosexual. Only in about 1967, they said, all right, two men can be together. Why didn't King James, imagine this, King James is with the men in Parliament, and apparently if he's sleeping with all of them, why wouldn't they just get rid of the Boggery Act? So it's lawful. Why? Because King James is a homosexual, man.
That's right. That makes so much sense.
That's why the Boggery Act was in place, man, up until 1967. I hope someone just double check it. I believe it might be 1967. It might not. I can't remember. Go ahead.
Karawan Khan, the devout character of King James should be evident from his personal and familiar writings.
Hey, and this is how you know King James was a homosexual, from his personal and his familiar writings. Go ahead.
Karawan Khan, Sir Henry Wotton was a contemporary of King James.
So this man was a contemporary of King James, not somebody that came in 1918 talking about King James was a homosexual. Not your Rastafarian uncle saying King James was a homosexual. Not him. This is a man that was King James' contemporary. So, Lucky, go ahead.
Karawan Khan. In commenting upon James's reign in Scotland, Watson makes this comment about James's moral character.
This is a man that was his contemporary and knew King James, not someone that was mad at him because he fired them, not someone that came once the letter lay dormant for years in 1980 something. Go ahead.
Karawan Khan. An admirable quality is his chastity, which he has preserved without blemish.
Listen, his character was without blemish, man, because King James tried to do everything right. Go ahead.
Karawan Khan, unlike his predecessors, who disturbed the kingdom by leaving many bastards.
And he was saying King James was better than the other kings that was prior to him. He goes, yo, listen, man, his reputation was without blemish. So Lucky, come on, get me this slide.
The clergy of the Church of England, however, were the most profuse in their praise of their new king. After ascending the throne of England in 1603, Wilson writes, they cast a halo of holiness about him.
Listen, why did the clergymen of the church place a halo above King James? Meaning they were saying, yo, this man's upright, is righteous, is good, is this, is that. Surely, these is churchmen, and King James is a homosexual. Wouldn't they have spoke about it like, yo, this goes again? What you have to remember is Christianity back then ain't Christianity now. Like Christianity back then there was more masculine with it. They didn't have the truth, but there was more masculine with it. There was closer to the scriptures than these Christians are now. Because this was the time before Edomites had an influence in it, like they do today.
Right.
Go ahead.
And discovered his celestial proximity to the deity. What does that mean, sir? They cast a halo of holiness about him and discovered his celestial proximity to the deity.
Meaning they held him in high esteem. So a deity is like something that you worship.
Right.
So they're saying they held him in it's like saying they held him in high esteem.
Celestial proximity. What's that mean, Salakia?
Celestial is like like an angel.
Oh, right, like that. Okay, I understand.
Something that is better than the norm.
Right, Khan. Okay, I got it now. Makes sense. Salakia. Astounded by his knowledge and grasp of theology.
They was astounded by King James' knowledge and grasp of theology. Why? Because he was raised by the men that was theologians and so forth. Go ahead.
Karawan Khan. They declared that he spoke through the inspiration of the Holy Spirit.
And even they was like, yo, this is a man of God based off how he spoke. Go ahead.
And that God had bestowed upon him far more than upon ordinary mortals the power to interpret scriptures.
And they were saying King James was breaking them scriptures down. Go ahead.
Karawan Khan. There certainly is hyperbole and overstatement here. However, the point is that the clergy of the Church of England were profoundly impressed with the godly character of their new king.
And they was impressed with the godly character of their new king. So now, if King James was a homosexual, why wouldn't the church say, yo, nah, this king's a homosexual, we can't do this?
Yeah, that's true.
And they was impressed with the character of what they call their godly new king.
Right.
And the homosexual can't be godly, which lets you know that Sir Anthony Walden was lying, man. The reason he's there is because he was knighted at one stage.
Right.
Go ahead.
And so, like you said, if I may, sir, his good name. Does the scripture say something about a good name is better than something? Because if he didn't have
silver and gold or something.
Yeah, that would be a precept for this though here, wouldn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
So
they're speaking about him, how he was wise, how he was like celestial, how he was like a man sent from God. That's how they're speaking about him. And these is his contemporaries. These is clergymen of the church. This is a man that came in the 1980s. This is a man that was around at the time when he was around. Go ahead.
Khan. Wilson goes on to comment that there was no more familiar sight at the court than that of the king at dinner discussing theology with
Hold on. Wilson said King James was at dinner discussing theology. What did Anthony Walden say about King James earlier? Let's see. Let's see.
Oh, he said that he'll eat in public, in private, and shit like that.
Exactly.
Oh,
So he goes eat in private and roll his eyes at everybody. This man here said, nah, King James used to eat food and discuss theology. That's what I'm saying. King James would eat dinner with the public and discuss theology. He would eat with the men and discuss with them. So how come Sir Anthony Wilden saying King James used to hide away and was a glutton and would eat on his own? That's not what this is saying right here. Oh, Rose with King James, he goes, yo, they would sit down and they would discuss theology. He's letting you know King James had table manners and whatnot. Whereas, what's his name? Whereas Anthony Wilden lied on King James, said he would roll his eyes when the public would come because he didn't want to eat with them. Which now we're finding out that what Wilden was saying is a lie according to what we're reading right now.
Right.
This man said that King James the table man, isn't it?
Yeah.
And actually, God was saying that what when he drinks, water spills out his mouth. And
He goes, he don't wash his hands, he's filthy, his tongue's too big for his mouth, all of those kind of things. And now this is somebody now the Wikipedia don't show you these sources. Wikipedia just make out like King James was an animal. The same way they said what Anthony Wilder said about the Scots was satire. Also, the book, The Court, and King James is satire also, man. It's a man that hates King James. So that's why he came up with that. So that's also satire. So with that Court and King James, you don't need to buy that book either unless you teach the history class and you want to cut it. Outside of that, you probably don't even need the book.
Khan, you know this. So like you said, you know this would be good for Officer Ariella on his Monday ones. Salakia.
With the locus.
Yeah, because he was talking about certain rusters saying, you know, that they trying to say Rastafari and Selassie is a god and whatnot, and King James, and they always say King James is a homosexual as well. So this would be good for Ariella.
Yeah, man. Tell him he needs to log in and get the information, man.
Khan, I will do so.
Tell him he needs to log in and get the info. Salaki, go ahead.
Khan. Familiar sight at court than that of the king at dinner discussing theology with 3 or 4 of his churchmen, bishops, deans, and royal chaplains.
See, and he used to sit down at dinner and used to discuss religion with them. Apparently, all King James used to do was talk about religion. Apparently, that's what they say. When he started writing sonnets, so lucky, go ahead.
Khan, sir. The godly interest of James Stewart are also evident in that he even made his own personal translation of the book.
Don't think King James was a dummy. King James made his own personal translations of the book of Psalms and the book of Revelations. He read those and he translated it. Go ahead.
Khan. Of Psalms as well as the book of Revelation.
And he also translated the book of Revelations into his own copy for his own personal self. Bearing in mind, he didn't translate it from the Hebrew. I believe he translated it from it might have been the Wycliffe. Yeah. Might have been that Bible, because that was the one that was used in England at the time. Who's the one that who's the one that Henry VIII had him burnt? Was it Wycliffe? Yeah, it was him. Yeah, it was him. Obviously, he prayed to the Lord, please open the eyes of the king. King James just threw my man in the fire. No, I mean Henry VIII just threw my man in the fire. I think they burnt him up. Then after that, they started to kind of use his Bible anyway. But at the time, everyone was doing their own translations. So what you would have is a Catholic man would translate it, a Protestant would translate it, and then you would have loads of different versions of the Bible. But it weren't versions; it was different translations. So when you speak to Muslims, they get translations mixed up with versions. So they believe that the Bible's been changed. They don't understand the translation.
Right.
Like they don't understand. I speak to Muslims all the time. You know what? It's funny enough. I spoke to a Muslim last week. I seen him the other day. He's gone to me, yo. One thing you've done good for me is you've made me study my religion more. I was like, yeah. I was like, yeah, thanks.
Was that the same ones in the gym, sir?
Yeah.
Khan.
Study my religion more. Well, it is they don't know how much knowledge we have in here, so they're thinking they're just dealing with a nigga, where they can come and say, oh, there's 70,000 versions of the Bible. Right. I was like, well, show me. Because listen, this a lie that is. They say things and they almost make it sound true with how they say it. So you might be thinking, well, they said it with such conviction, it might be true. Listen, the line, man, they ain't 70,000 versions of the Bible. Now there's translations, and you can always go back to the sources. You can always go back to the scrolls and so forth. Eventually, we're going to go over a class where we go over how the Bible was compiled and where the scrolls and how they translated it. It's pretty simple. They make it like it's something deep, and it's not really that deep. This is what you do. You get scholars and people that can speak Hebrew and Greek, just translate it. That's all. So go ahead.
If I may say, so is Genesis actually the first book? Sorry, if I'm not trying to spoil anything for it.
Yes.
But it is the first book. Okay, cool. All right.
Yes.
So I was told. I think when I was in church years ago, and obviously I know I can't listen to pastors; they talk crap. But I was told that the first book was was it Job? Job. I was told I think the first book was Job.
Then that was, where was Job living? Was Job living in a place where it was void and without form? Because you find that in Genesis is in the beginning. So did Job have cattle before cattle was made? It makes no sense. You should have asked them well, if God made cattle in Genesis, how did Job have cattle before God made cattle?
I didn't even know.
It makes no sense.
Yeah, can't.
I have conversations with Christians these days. They're not smart enough to understand. Just little things like that. As soon as you open the Bible in Genesis, it says, "In the beginning, the earth was without form and void."
Right.
So Job is the first book. Where was Job living?
Exactly.
So yeah,
exactly. That makes so much sense, though. What you're saying still.
You see with things like that, I wouldn't even give this answer. I'd give them an answer like that. So how did Job have all this cattle if cattle wasn't made?
Can't.
That's it.
This is when I was in church, though. So I was just listening to what they were saying, and pastor says it, and it's right,
Yeah.
Can't.
Them pastors are crazy, man. I hear what they be telling people. Listen, I ain't spoke to a pastor in forever. I think I prefer not to speak to them. So lucky.
I'm gonna try and bring one on the ends for again.
Right.
That was heavy, but
bring one, just so you know. You can just see how it goes.
Yeah, can't. All right. So this had nothing to do with the King James version, but it indicates the depth of education as well as the spiritual interest of this unusual ruler. So
always remember that the Psalms and the Revelation that King James translated, that's nothing to do with the King James version. Because what a Christian will say to you is, King James made his own version of the Bible and translated it. So they will show you this, that King James had a version of Psalms and Revelations. And then they will say, see, King James translated the Bible. And then people believe he translated the Bible. He had his own version, which was separate from the King James version. So soon this battle will pop up. People will tell you King James translated the Bible, then they will show you, he translated Revelations. But they won't tell you that that's not in the King James version what he translated. They won't tell you that. They'll make you believe it is. So always remember, what he translated was for his own personal records. Nothing to do with the King James version of the Bible. That was just for himself. So always remember that, because someone will tell. Because I don't know if you heard it before, when Muslims say, King James wrote the Bible, King James done this, King James didn't. What King James did do was had a personal copy for himself that he translated for himself. But that was outside of the King James version. So that's not in the King James version.
Right.
Get my next slide. Slucky, go ahead.
Cut on concept. So okay, for me, I've got the information on the Buggery Act.
Yeah, go ahead. Give me that information.
The Buggery Act of 1533 was repealed in England and Wales in 1967.
Oh, listen, my maths is, I'm spot on with these dates.
That's
heavy. That's heavy, man. That's heavy, sir. That's heavy.
Well, listen, if King James was a homosexual, why would he have got rid of the Buggery Act? Should have been gotten rid of in 1603. King James should have stepped foot in England, put his hand up and said, Buggery Act's gone. That's like if King James was a homosexual, that's what he should have did. This Buggery Act stayed in place till 1967, man. And only now, two men are allowed to lie down together, according to the law of England. But before that, Henry VIII was a black man who weren't tolerating that, man. Henry VIII was a black man where he said, nah, we ain't having no Buggery Act, man. So lucky, go ahead, Benjamin.
The charge that King James was a homosexual emanated from an old political enemy of the king, Sir Anthony Weldon.
See, so even they're letting you know that the whole rumor came from Sir Anthony Weldon. Go ahead.
clerk of the green cloth in the royal court.
And he was the clerk of the green cloth in the royal court. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Moreover, his family for generations had provided offices for the royal household. However, Weldon was expelled from the court by James in about 1625 for political reasons.
Well, he was expelled in 1625 for political reasons. He was expelled because of that letter that he wrote. So he expelled him from the court in 1625. Slaki, go ahead.
Weldon subsequently swore he would have his day of vengeance.
Go ahead. So he swore that he would have his day of vengeance. Go ahead.
Curiously, Weldon never confronted the king, but waited 25 years later.
Curiously, he didn't confront the king, but waited 25 years later. Go ahead.
To hint that James had effeminate interest in men.
Why would he wait 25 years to hint that King James had effeminate interest in men? Go ahead.
Moreover, he also waited until James's son Charles I had been executed in 1649.
But imagine this. He didn't put this out because why? King James' son Charles I would have said, yo, my dad weren't a homosexual. He waited until he was executed. Then he pulled it out. So he put this book out after King James was dead and after his son Charles I was dead. Because he was executed in 1649 by the own English, by the English government under the orders of Oliver Cromwell, who became the Lord Protector. Go ahead.
As we will note in the next section, Weldon not only came to hate James, but also had a racial hatred of the Scottish race from which James sprang.
He hated Scotland, and that's why he wrote that letter. Go ahead.
Another enemy of James.
James sprang because King James was Scottish. Go ahead.
Another enemy of James was one Guy Fawkes. Under the direction of Jesuit operatives, Fawkes even tried to bomb James and the entire English Parliament with 36 barrels of gunpowder.
Go ahead.
There should be no question that James had both political and religious enemies.
So it's letting you know that King James had political and religious enemies. Go ahead.
It was Weldon who, after the death of James and Charles, wrote about the Scottish race.
Go ahead.
Fornication they hold but a pastime, wherein man's ability is approved.
So now, after they're both dead, now is this in Scotland again? Go ahead.
At adultery, they shake their heads.
And he's trying to say in Scotland, they're okay with adultery. They shake their heads like it's normal. Go ahead.
Murder, they wink at.
Murder, they wink at. So he's trying to make out the Scottish people are animals. Go ahead.
And blasphemy, they laugh at.
Now he's lying about the Scots right now. And this same guy that's lying about the Scots, the same guy that lied about King James being a homosexual. Go ahead.
He also wrote, their flesh naturally abhors cleanness.
Go ahead.
Their breath.
We read this in the actual letter, so it's giving
right,
the same thing. Get me this one.
The bigotry and hatred of Weldon are self-evident. Lest there be any doubt about his objectivity, here is how Weldon described James's person.
Yeah, I think we got this one. Hold on. Yeah, give me the bottom part where it says it should be apparent.
It should be apparent that Sir Weldon was no impartial observer. Though King James was never known for his social graces and was somewhat gangling in his appearance, it is evident that Weldon had a visceral hatred of him.
And it's not Weldon hated James, man. He hated King James. Go ahead.
Yet Sir Anthony Weldon is the primary source of the allegation that James was a homosexual.
See, it's letting you know who's the primary source. He's the primary source of it, man. No one else was saying that until he started saying it. Go ahead.
Maurice Lee Jr., a historian published by the University of Illinois Press, says historians can and should ignore the venomous caricature of the king's person and behavior drawn by Anthony Weldon.
See, so Morris Lee Jr., a historian, said everyone should ignore Anthony Weldon. Go ahead.
Another historian.
One historian said ignore Anthony Weldon because it's lies. Go ahead. Now
Another historian, Christopher Durston, writes regarding Weldon's book. This poisonous piece of literary revenge was to do profound and lasting damage to James's reputation.
This has done lasting, and it has done damage King James's reputation. Why? Because people are talking about it hundreds of years later. Hundreds of years later, people ain't done the proper research to prove that what Sir Anthony Weldon is saying is a lie. So this has damaged his reputation, and Weldon lied. Weldon's meant to be a Christian man. Why is he telling lies for? He's telling lies because he got fired from the court where he should have just took his L and kept it moving. Now this is another historian saying, yeah, he's done damages to King James' reputation. Go ahead.
As it became the prime source for many subsequent historical assessments.
And it's letting you know the same man, it became the primary source. Now, there are hundreds of people saying King James was a homosexual. All sources, you trace them all the way back to Anthony Weldon and then the Catholics that didn't like King James. So it started with him and then it spread through gossip. And that's how it spread. So much that it's all over Wikipedia. Go ahead.
Many subsequent historical assessments whose authors failed to make sufficient allowance for its obvious bias.
And it goes that people failed to make sufficient allowance for its obvious bias, meaning they're saying this book is biased because it hates King James, so you're going to write a biased book. And it's saying most people didn't do the research. Go ahead.
There were several others who hinted that James was a homosexual.
Others that hinted it, go ahead.
However, upon examination, in each case...
Can you examine each case and follow each lead of King James being a homosexual? Go ahead.
In each case, they turned out to be avowed political enemies of James and likely fed upon each other's gossip.
See? So it started off with one man and then it became gossip by his other enemies. So if you sit down with one man that's the enemy and his friends with someone else that's the enemy, yo, King James is a homosexual, he'll go tell this person, this person, this person. Before you know it, it spreads and everyone's saying it. But everyone is saying it with no proof. It just became word of mouth. It spread like wildfire. Go ahead.
Much could and has been written on this matter.
And much has been written on this matter. Go ahead.
However, Stephen Coston quotes a historian who lived much closer to these charges.
Now they're quoting a historian that lived a lot closer to these charges of King James being homosexual. Go ahead.
As despicable and libellous.
He goes, someone put me up the definition of libellous, L-I-B-L-O-U-S. So it goes, these charges are despicable and libellous. This is a man that lived closer to the time. He said these lies are despicable and libellous. Go ahead, Benjamin.
Canada on concert. The meaning of libellous is constituting or including a libel, defamatory.
It means what?
Defamatory.
So now they lied on King James' name and ruined his character. This man that lived close to the time of these rumors said it was defamatory, meaning they defamed King James' name, man. This man lived closer to the time, bearing in mind. This man lived way before the 1800s. He lived closer to the time. And he said what they said about King James was despicable, meaning they knew it weren't even true back then. They knew it weren't true. So Lucky, go ahead.
If a statement in a book or newspaper or magazine is libelous, it wrongly accuses someone of something and is therefore...
Wrongly accuses someone. A historian that lived close to the time said King James was wrongly accused of being a homosexual man. That's what he said. This man lived closer to the time than you ever will. He goes, King James was wrongly accused of being a homosexual. So Lucky, you can any more on that, Benjamin?
God, it just says full of lies, mistakes.
Listen, man, whatever they said about King James was full of lies. Because these historians, which is proving that whatever was said was a lie. Take me back to the book, because we almost up on the time.
It's looking around now.
Say that again.
It's looking around for you now.
I think I might have it on the...
Don't think like
I might have it in a few of the slides. Lucky, go ahead, Benjamin.
Full of lies, mistakes, and nonsense.
It goes full of lies, mistakes, and nonsense. That's what he said. It was full of lies, mistakes, and nonsense. Go ahead.
It should be noted that no one in the 17th century, not
It said
even his
no one in the 17th century. Go ahead.
not even his bitter enemies ever openly accused James of buggery.
There you have it, man. No one in the 17th century ever accused King James of being a homosexual. No one ever accused him of it in the 17th century. Go ahead.
Rather, they circulated hints through gossip.
Circulated through gossip because Anthony Wilden was telling lies and gossiping. Go ahead.
Even after he was dead and his son had been executed, the enemies of the Stuart dynasty did not directly make that charge.
And even when he was dead, they didn't make that charge. Go ahead.
The reason is apparent.
The reason is apparent. Go ahead.
Those close enough to have known him knew better.
Those close enough to know him knew better. They knew he was homosexual. That's what that's saying. Go ahead.
When this gossip is traced to its source,
they traced this gossip right back to the source. Now let's see the source. Go ahead.
A handful of disgruntled courtiers and political enemies are at the core. Long after his death.
Long after his death, they came up with these rumors. His political enemies. Hold on. Let me see if yeah, go ahead.
To the contrary, there are numerous contemporaries of James who paint the opposite picture.
Go ahead.
However, to make a judgment based upon gossip, howbeit historical, emanating from bitter enemies,
even they know his bitter enemies said this. Go ahead.
Is no case at all.
Go ahead.
Proving a negative is difficult because someone alleges another to have failed morally does not establish the fact.
Go ahead.
Though vengeful enemies did spread gossip about James,
go ahead.
There has never been any hard evidence by either contemporary.
There's never been any hard evidence of his contemporary of him being a homosexual. Go ahead.
Or by modern historians to prove him.
Modern historians to prove him a homosexual. No one has proof to say what they're saying. Go ahead.
Rather, all the evidence points to the opposite direction.
There you go. The evidence points to him loving women. Go ahead.
He was a married man who had children.
Go ahead.
He has a voluminous record of others attesting to his moral character.
See?
His own writings reveal a man with godly predisposition.
See? And King James was a man that believed in God. So now people are saying, nah, whatever they're saying about him, there's no proof of it. Let me skip somebody. Go ahead, give me this.
There was another bit you missed on that page.
Lucky, go ahead.
Moreover, he explicitly warned his sons against the evils of homosexuality.
Wait. What did King James do?
He explicitly warned his sons against the evils of homosexuality.
Sons against homosexuality, man. He told his sons, don't be homosexuals. Go ahead.
The proven facts are that James Stewart was a devout man who loved the Lord and his word.
There you go. Now give me this from the Basilicon Duran. Go ahead.
But as this severe justice of yours upon all the offences be but for a time, as I have already said, so is there some horrible crimes that ye are bound in conscience never to.
But now King James is saying there's certain crimes that you're never ever supposed to forgive. Go ahead.
Forgive, such as witchcraft, willful murder, incest, especially with the degrees of
consanguinity.
I don't know what that means, but so sodomy.
What did King James say about sodomy?
He said these are such things of witchcraft that you can't. Does he say you can't forgive?
He goes, never ever forgive sodomy, man. Why would King James be a sodomite and he's saying never ever forgive sodomy? King James said boom bye bye before boom bye bye came out, man.
That's right.
Never ever to forgive sodomy, man. That's what King James said.
Right.
So if King James was living that life, why wouldn't King James okay? He didn't okay. Right. King James said never ever forgive sodomy, man. King James said, he goes, don't ever forgive sodomy. So okay, let me get hold on, let me get this one.
Quran Khan. But especially eschew to be effeminate.
King James told his sons, don't be effeminate, man.
That's
King
right.
James told his sons, don't be effeminate.
It-
So if King James was a homosexual, why would he be telling his sons, yo, don't be? He said, hate to be effeminate, man. He said, never forgive sodomy, hate to be effeminate. This is written by the hand of King James.
Right.
He told this book to his son, don't ever be effeminate. He told his son, man. He told his son, don't ever be effeminate, don't ever forgive sodomy, which means he knew it was a disgusting act. Go ahead.
In your clothes.
And he said, don't be effeminate in your clothes. He said, Deuteronomy 22:5, man. That's what he said.
Right.
A man shouldn't be dressed. He said, don't be dressing up like no woman, man. He told his son, be masculine. Go ahead.
In perfuming.
In perfuming. So don't be putting on women's perfume, smelling all like a woman. You better put on men's clothes, man. Talking about the women's fragrance smells better, man. Don't be a man putting on that, talking about the women's fragrance smells better. So, Lucky, go ahead.
Is this preening, or preying? Or
Preening.
such like? And fail never in time of wars to be.
And he told his son, be a man in time of wars, man. He told his son, yo, don't be afraid of death. So why do you think when Charles I was about to get beheaded, he wasn't afraid of death, man? Because he remembered his father's words. We're going to go into Charles I sometime next year. So, Lucky, go ahead.
Khan. Both is Salakia. And wars to be Salakia. And fail never in time of wars to be gallant.
I can't even Gallaudet, whatever it is. I don't know.
And braft.
Brave.
Both brief.
So I can go ahead.
That brief, sir. Brief.
Yeah, bravest.
Khan. Both in clothes and countenance.
Meaning it's saying be a man at all times, man. Be brave, man. Both in clothes and countenance. Go ahead.
Khan. And make not a fool of thyself in disguising or wearing long your hair or nails.
Yo, don't be a man with long hair or nails. Now, man can have long hair. While it is people that read the Bible back then, they read it very verbatim. So he read in Corinthians where Paul goes, it's a shame for man to have long hair. So he read that, and that's why he's saying don't have your hair long, if you get what I mean.
Right.
So if you don't have your hair long, he's saying don't have your nails long. That's how masculine King James was. He didn't even want a nigga to have long nails. Just cut them nails, man. Get me? That's how masculine he was with it. And he goes, which are both excrements of nature. Get me this last slide, Salakia.
Khan. But beware with using excess of meat and drink.
That's how you know King James wasn't a glutton or alcoholic, because he's telling his son, beware of using excess of meat and drink. Drink is alcohol, and meat is being a glutton, eating too much. Told his son, beware of these things because it happens. Go ahead.
And chiefly beware of drunkenness, which is a beastly vice, namely in a king.
He's saying, don't be an alcoholic. It's not a good look for a king. That's what he's saying. Go ahead.
In the form of your meat eating, be neither uncivil.
See. And Mima said he was uncivil. He didn't want to eat with no one. His telling us, don't be uncivil when you're eating meat, man. Go ahead.
Like a gross cynic.
I don't know. Go ahead.
It's okay. Nor effectually mignard, like a dainty dame. So like it.
He even said to his son, yo, eat like a man. Don't be eating like a woman. He goes, yo, man up, man. Eat like a man. Don't eat like a woman. Go ahead.
But eat in a manly round.
Eat like a man. That's what he said. He told his son, don't be drinking out of porn star martini glasses, man. That's what he said. So don't be drinking out of a porn star martini glass. He said, eat like a man. And he goes, eat like a man in an honest fashion. King James ain't no homosexual, man.
That's 100%.
King James ain't no homosexual.
That's right.
As you know, we don't usually go over the time. 21:02, clap it up. We out of here. We'll get the rest sometime next year or something. Hack it. We'll be here tomorrow, 7 p.m. Scripture breakdown class with Captain Karafi. We also got Under Ends Friday, Sabbath service Saturday. Go ahead, Hack it, and you can call it.
Khan. We are the ISUPK. Started out at 1 West 125th Street, Harlem, New York, under commanding General Yohana. Rules for a new brother and sister. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to shed themselves of the world. If they need transportation, a teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister is interested in a particular person, he or she must get permission from the head to speak to a brother or sister. There's another 6 months in which the brother and sister will court each other. After this 6 month period, a brother and sister will get permission from the head to marry. Tithes, which is a commandment. Numbers 18:21. Malachi 3:8-10 means tenth in the Hebrew, Mayashara. 10% of every penny of any increase the Lord gives you, give to the Treasury Department or teacher. Priest fund free will offering. For priests, not mandatory. Whatsoever amount you would like. The upcoming Holy Convocation is the 25th of December. We have a Kanaka in Birmingham. Remind Akim and Aquath to check the bulletin board. On the hallway, anyone that wants to be a trooper in the school, start wearing all black boots, shirts, pants, headband, and scarf. And with that, Men of Israel, Amadim Shabbat, Amadim, Barak, Yahweh Bashir,
Yahweh Hashem Shabbat Kafam.
Yajimata, class dismissed.
What again, Hakim and Benjamin? Christ, like the Shalom Israel.
Shalom, sir. Lord of Christ. To our class again. To our
Shalom Israel.
Well, that's fine.